Thank you, everyone. The next session, first session of the after lunch, the theme of the subject is a demonstration and explanation of the magician's jewel, a union of science and spirituality by Susan M. Griffith-Jones from England. Susan is basically from England, but she living in India in Kulu from last around 13-14 years. And she has done a remarkable job in creating a new device. And I request Susan to kindly explain to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Manojji. I will go almost straight into describing what this is. Some of you have seen me during lunchtime putting it up. The first thing that I did, you may have noticed, was to take my pendulum. This is a pendulum which can measure where sacred energy is coming out of the ground. And of course we know that there are many, many different sacred sites where we've already used to put temples on, pyramids on, other kind of objects, like you were showing the lingam also, that bring out the energy from the ground and spread it into the environment. So what I did was to take my pendulum and to find a point or several points in this room and to decide where I could put this. So I went along the ground like this until I found a point where it turned clockwise. I mean, we're not talking about where the pyramids of Giza are or where the temple of Akshardham has been placed, because these are undoubtedly on sacred spots. But we can find sacred spots everywhere in our environment. They are absolutely everywhere. And just from that tiny little emergence, that point, we can place an object with the right symmetry, the right geometry, and the right spatial configuration, and we can amplify and maximize that sacred energy into the environment. There are probably about 1,500 sacred spots in this room. I just chose one which was near the center so you can all see it. So when I was actually finding the sacred point on the ground, my pendulum, I'm just going to push this now, pendulum was going like this. Now, watch. What I have done is I have taken the energy, which is already there, it's just pure potential, and I have given it a way and a means to shape it to become something more powerful that is now emitted into our environment. This is not a new phenomenon. The ancients were doing it millennia ago. But here I just want to demonstrate to you the magician's jewel, which exactly has this purpose for our environment. So how does it work? Let me start with myself. Who am I? I am not like an electrical engineer or somebody who has any academic scientific knowledge, but as an independent researcher and a creative, innovative artist, I have delved into subjects so that I'm at the level where I can speak to experts who are knowing about this subject. So let me tell you a little bit more about the magician's jewel and how it came about. I was very, very fortunate to land up in Nepal back in the early 2000s, where I met a very wonderful, amazing guru, His Eminence Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, with whom I spent 6 years studying and learning about the highest tantric yogas of Tibetan Buddhism. So we're talking about the Vajrayana here, the diamond path of Buddhism. And this is what we are talking about today. We are talking about where spirituality meets the world that we live in every single day. So when we meditate with our eyes open, because we are going to use the potential of whatever is in the environment and transform it into what is good and positive and useful for society. That's one way of looking at it. Also, the meditation will carry us to a point where we no longer distinguish between what is good and bad and right and wrong and beautiful and ugly, this and that, but see that it is all coming from one space. We've already had that conversation this morning. So let's come to the mirror. You see here at the base, if you can look slightly over, you'll see that there's a mirror underneath this model. So what is the purpose of the mirror? Let's just talk about the mirror as space, as akasha. Akasha is like the absolute reality within which all potential exists. And then out of it arises many, many forms. Here is but one form arising out of akasha. But then you will see that by virtue of arising out, it is also contained inside it. It is not separate from it, it is part of it. So if we were to collapse this image and take it away, the mirror would be purely clean again. This is a union of absolute and relative reality. This is a union of absolute and relative time. This is a union of absolute and relative consciousness. None of these, of course, are separated one from another. So I'm going to describe to you today the device. Having studied with the Tibetan masters and having carried out many individual retreats from Mount Kailash to all across the Himalayas in Nepal, where I lived for 6 years, and in Mussoorie for 3 years, and now in the Kulu Manali Valley for the last 14 years, I came to a point where I could understand scientific meanings because I had studied these highest tantric yogas. Now, the highest tantric yoga that caught my particular attention was the Bardos. Many of you may have heard of this. Bardos is the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the process of consciousness and the process of existence. So on one layer it's showing the process of existence. We're alive, we die, we're in an in-between state, we're reborn, we live again, This is the cycle, but this is also a process of consciousness. We think we're dying, we think we're somewhere in an in-between world, we think we're being born, we think we're living, but actually if you break it down into one space, it is just activity occurring at different levels of reality, different levels of solidity in front of us. So as we perceive, so it appears in the mirror of space around us. So let's come back to the model. What is the purpose of this model? Well, it has two angles to it. One, it is an installation piece which describes the process of existence according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So participants will actually climb up on this. Let me just explain. This spiral reaches the base. I haven't put it fully on. A, it's difficult to carry, and B, you won't be able to see inside the interior. So, first the participants will go into various chambers, climb up this travelator. This is now 100 feet high, at least. You know, recently somebody sent me a video. I was at a workshop for the Magician's Jewel in California just a month ago, and a fellow participant sent a video afterwards showing this first electric tower that was built in San Jose in the late 1870s. This was just before Tesla came to America. And then the Eiffel Tower was built in Paris. And then everybody was trying to compete with each other, higher towers. And these new kind of electric lamps were being placed at the top of these towers and were emitting across the cities. This was the USA that Tesla arrived in, bursting with competition in this electrical world. How to get the cities lit, how to put electricity into everybody's houses. We're way beyond that now, of course. We've all got electricity, it's just a part of our life. But now, what we have created in the electric world is a very harmful wavelength within the subtle energy realm. So all the electricity that's being used in this room, some of you may have noticed, I put up a very simple device here to clear the electrosmog that's in this room. It's not our fault, it's just the way life is now. Yeah? Computers upon the lights, upon speakers, plus the Wi-Fi radiation that's occurring. So if we could see into the subtle realm, we would see that the wavelength that is being carried through there is a detrimental one for our biological systems. But that's okay. The more powerful the energy that is there, the more potential it has to be transformed into something beneficial. So, what we do is we find that energy, we place an object in it, and we transform it, and now it beams out the correct wavelength, which is harmonious to our bodies, and good for our health, good for balancing all our energy system, and for keeping us healthy. It doesn't need to be a device this big, but what a device this big does is something else, and this is what I'm going to describe to you now. So just keep in mind that this model, this installation, will also be an example of the process of existence, process of consciousness according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. That's a fun ride. You come along as a participant, you climb on it, you go up, whether it's going to be 100 foot or whatever. It's going to be big enough for people to walk around on and to really get the understanding of this path. Also, there are chambers, there are augmented reality, virtual reality displays, there are cinematographical things going on, there's like whole thing on lucid dreaming. There's a long, long list of things which I just don't have time to describe to you right now. What I'm going to describe to you is the device. So the participants are going to come onto the lower part, onto the exterior of the circular mirror, and they're going to walk around. And as they walk around, they're going to go through clicky turnstile things. And these clicky turnstile gates will operate these 4 cross keys. These will turn. And as they turn, they strike the lowest crystal. I know they're just metal things right now, but these are crystals. And as they strike the crystals, they create piezoelectricity, which vibrates in the lowest crystal. And according to which crystals we choose to use, obviously they will have the quality of amplification. The piezoelectricity will be amplified, amplified, amplified. So in effect, what we've got is an electromagnetic wave coming up from the base to the center, just here. Now, another chamber which we have at the top is an Om chamber. This is actually the Bardo of meditation according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But in the Om chamber, the sounding of 1 octave of harmonic resonance of Om will be heard at all times. And as the sound touches the top crystal of this axis, it will also cause vibration, causing piezoelectricity, and then again with this amplification process, this electromagnetic wave will be brought down to the center. So what we've got are 2 electromagnetic waves coming from top and bottom into the center. Okay, so what are they going to do in the center? Meet? Yes, but not directly meet, because first we're going to put them through the dodecahedron that you see here in the center. So, I wasn't going to go through the outer and inner part of this installation. Just very, very quickly though, in order for you to understand, what you see on the exterior is an octahedron. Then you see a tetrahedron. Then you see a cube. Then you see an icosahedron. Then you see a dodecahedron. These are the 5 platonic solids, nested together. But it doesn't stop there, because inside the dodecahedron, there's another icosahedron. Inside that is another cube and another tetrahedron, and finally in the center of it, an octahedron. What you've got is 9 nested platonic solids. They're being mirrored from exterior to interior and from top to bottom. So there are lots of things going on here, lots of things. But let's come back to the electromagnetic wave that's coming down from the top to the center and from the bottom up to the center. Because what is the property of a dodecahedron? Well, there are 12 pentagons and 20 triangles in a dodecahedron. Now, using the top pentagon, why are we going to use the top pentagon? Because each of the angles of a pentagon is 108 degrees. Does 108 resonate with some of you? This is a number that we see across the spiritual traditions. 108. Why 108? Because the quality of 108 degrees is implosion to center. So you carry the electromagnetic energy through a pentagon, through the angles of 108 degrees, and it will create a vortex. So what we have here is a vortex coming into the center from the top, and a vortex coming into the center from the bottom of the dodecahedron. And what does this do? This converts a Hertzian wave on the electromagnetic spectrum, meaning one that has to go from A to B to C to D. It has to move in a certain direction. It takes time, it takes effort. What we're going to do is transform that Hertzian wave into a non-Hertzian wave, which our friend Mr. Tesla called a scalar wave. And in producing a scalar wave, we have created a wave that is harmonious and balancing to all biological creatures. So we're going to take everything that is harmful to us here, transform it, and beam out beneficial energy. I'm anticipating that if we put up a huge model of this installation in the middle of a city, in the middle of the countryside, wherever, we will have a beam that is emerging for miles, 10, 15, 20, I don't know. Somebody told me that it could be a 100-mile radius around it. I just want to show you a 1-minute video. You see, what I don't have here in the model is the exterior part. It is a park. That's a park where you start off in. That's the Bardos of life. We're alive now. We have a material body. We walk around. We see these beautiful water peninsulas, these 4 peninsulas. These are 4 bliss worlds. 4 bliss worlds containing 4 more bliss worlds. They're actually torsional fields, but to the uneducated eye, they're just pretty little places you can go and stand and enjoy yourself. And you enter into the structure, you go underneath into a chamber where you are told about the lucid dreaming, it's the Bardos of sleep. You climb up the travelator, which is a golden spiral about to appear. Here you see 3 toroidal fields, top, middle, lower, and each of these is working in its own way. I haven't shown it on the model because this is invisible, you can't see it. So you see here how this travelator, this spiral moves up to the top, to the Orm chamber. So the Orm chamber is the first place where we are creating the electromagnetic energy, the piezoelectricity that's carried through the crystals. And the lower chamber, the striking of the crystal at the base, is where we're creating the lower electromagnetic energy field. I'm going to read this Word document to you. I could say it, but I might miss something, so I thought I would just read it to you. I was only going to tell you a little bit about this, the outer part, maybe the inner part. I've also got what I call a secret part and a heart essence part. But I have jumped straight to the heart essence of this project, and I'm going to read you my synopsis of how I see the heart essence of this project. There's a threefold symmetry within the Magician's Jewel. The Magician's Jewel is a unique threefold combination of form, shape, sound, vibration, and charge, light. Comprising a surrounding park-style layout with a structure positioned in the middle, it is inspiringly large enough to both create a sense of awe on first sight, as well as allow participants to comfortably move around within its inner passageways and chambers. These 3 layers, intricately wrapped up one within the other, are displayed in an entire structure that is also perfectly mirrored into the ground below it, giving the impression of there being another whole space which is nevertheless illusory, just like the illusory space of the relative reality that we are perceiving around us all the time. Doesn't mean it's not there, but doesn't mean that it's got any actual reality to it. While directly experiencing various octaves of harmonic resonance, their symbiotic relationship with appearance and resultant charge, when moving through the Magician's Jewel, participants bask in a triple set of resonance designed to retune our natural biological energy system into a state of harmony and balance. Acting in micro-resonance with all 3 layers of our physical body, subtle energy, and spiritual consciousness, and in macro-resonance with the environment surrounding us, here a symmetry of 9 octaves of harmonic resonance and 9 layers of mirror images nested platonic solids hold the energy of the structure in a way that allows a process of phase conjugate implosion of charge to occur at the heart of this installation, causing a reversal of entropy, something that Professor Abramovich was talking about this morning as something that they would like to do at their new institute in Serbia. So, like a trefoil knot, if you see behind you, you'll see what a trefoil knot is. It's a three-way knot. So, like a trefoil knot holding perpetual spin, an infinite compression of these three layers of charge, sound, and form, light, self-perpetuates around a center that contains an ultimate field of unified potential. The union of these three varying fields of energy correlated into one. So, you are the first people I have ever read this page, the heart essence of the Magician's Jewel, to. In all the workshops I've been carrying out across the world in the last 6 months, I've been north, south, east, and west, I never showed this page. But this morning I got totally inspired by the other conversations that we've been having, that I wanted to tell you this, because I think it's pertinent to our conversation. So I leave you with that. There's so much more. I've been doing 6-hour workshops on this. I have just tried to pick small parts of it in order to give you just a very, very small idea of what I'm heading towards. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Presentation, thank you so much, Susan.